Hello and welcome to the What Turns You On podcast. I am Kaelen Marie, and I am so excited today to be here with Sister Goddess Tate Lydia. And she is going to give us like who she is, but I'm going to share with you some beautiful things that she just shared with me. She calls herself a Madrina, a death doula, and Queen of the White Sheep. Welcome, Sister Goddess. So excited to have you here today in your juiciness. And I'm digging this hot, sexy thing you got here. Oh, it's just so beautiful. So tell us in your own words about you, and then we're going to dive right into this interview.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Sister Goddess Kaleen. It's wonderful to be here and to share in the Goddess with you and in all things pleasure, desire, and what turns us on.
Mm, mm. So tell me about you. Give me your little quick bio that our listeners, our other sister goddesses can tap in and go, ah, I resonate with that.
Well, Madrina is godmother. I am a godmother and I hold myself out to the world as a godmother. I am also a death doula, which means just like a midwife or a doula who welcomes in new life to the world, I help escort people through the dying process and their family as a death doula. Dying is very similar to living, to coming to life. And I'm also known as Queen of the White Sheep. In every family, there's a black sheep, and we can almost all think of someone. But sometimes there is also a white sheep. Instead of someone who just can't get it together, there's someone who stands out from their family, but they have it together and they bring a special light to the family and to this life journey.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. That is so beautiful. And one of the things that I just love about this woman, and we're going to go right into a question here in just a second, but I just have to say, this woman can dance essentially like I dream of dancing one day. Like this is one of my purest desires is to be able to like I really get into that sensuality in my dancing and just feel that into my body, right? It just feels so good. And I started taking salsa back in August and it's just changed my world. But real quick, tell us what kind of dance you do because it's so mm.
I started dancing at 4 with ballet, like a lot of girls in the US do. I quickly transitioned out of ballet that has a lot of discipline and rules into jazz, which is much more free flowing. And then when hip hop was becoming popular in the US, I enjoyed hip hop. Back in the day, hip hop. Hip hop today is very different. And then I took a 14-year break. I didn't really do any dancing. And then when I started work, I had a client who introduced me to salsa dancing, just like you. I took my very first salsa class, fell in love, and within a year, I was being asked to teach. I started to teach bachata, which is a different
Yes.
dance. I traveled the world teaching, performing. I had dance teams. I had an incredible year and a half experience touring the world, teaching bachata and really pioneering bachata and bachata events in the United States. I went back to salsa and taught that for over 10 years. I've been trained in West Coast swing and Argentine tango and ballroom. And my most recent project was I started a nonprofit dance company that specialized in Brazilian Zouk, also known as lambada. And I help out and teach, assist locally with Brazilian Zouk and Lambada programs in my local area in Central Florida.
Oh my gosh, girl, like you, everything that you've just said, you were like freaking singing to my soul. I
Oh,
dancing is so, it's so, for me, it's so integral. It expresses and it moves energy. And I feel so in the zone. And so this leads into to really the question of all questions for this podcast is what fucking turns you on? What what fucking turns you on?
Uh, well, if we're talking about dance, dance is something that definitely turns me on. It, particularly when you're talking about a partner dance. Ballet, hip hop, and jazz is a very individual dance, and it brings you an element of presence. It brings you into your body, which is beautiful. And then partner dance really elevates the experience. And as a feminine, we really get the opportunity to practice following, or
Mm.
what's also known as surrendering. And this is a really big challenge, even for professionally trained dancers, women and men who have danced 20, 30 years individually really struggle with the partner work aspect because now you're experiencing full body presence with someone else and improvising. Like we're having a conversation right now. I suggest and then you receive, and then maybe
Mhm.
you suggest and I receive. And it's this dialogue. So I would say dance, whether it's individual dance or partner dance, is a very powerful tool for what turns you and me and anybody else who chooses to do it on.
So, I've always been involved with the divine feminine. And I know that one of my main, well, truly one of my very, very strong main purposes in this life is to help bring the balance of the divine masculine and the divine feminine. And I did not know, I was so divinely guided. My sister, she's like, hey, you're gonna love this story. My sister's like, hey, we've been wanting to go salsa dancing for like 2 years. And she's like, hey, there's this salsa dance class. And she's like, it's like only $20. And I think we should go. And this was in August. And I had just completed working at where I was at before. So I had the time available. I'm like, okay. I said, do we dance with partners? She's like, I don't think so. I think we just dance by ourselves. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm thinking it's going to be like in the basement of a church. And we go, I was like, I don't have any idea what I'm getting into. And we go to this building and it is this Masonic temple. And I'm like, girl, what the hell have you gotten us into? We go in and there's this gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous ballroom. And there are these people and these instructors, and they're all over the place. And there must have been at that very first one, there were like 70 people. And we
Wow.
had partner dance, and it's been this way like every week. And I'm like, and our very first class, oh my gosh, our very first class, she said, the instructor, she's like, this is about you surrendering to your divine feminine
Wow.
and allowing the man, the lead, to lead and be in his divine masculine. And I went, oh my gosh, I am home. Like that, like my whole entire being just like was like turned on completely,
You knew you
right?
were in the right place.
Yes. How has that been for you as you have been in this realm of divine masculine, divine feminine, to be able to surrender? Like, what has that been like for you? Because your background, like what you do for your day job, is a
Mm,
little bit on the more masculine side, but it's something that
100%.
you excel deeply in.
Mhm.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. y- When I was actively teaching on a regular basis, I taught this concept of being a masterful follow, being a master follow. And when we start dancing, especially with partner dancing, we're just trying to get our footsteps, you're just trying to orient yourself. You're like getting used to this new set of parameters. And once you get through that phase, the next part of it becomes, or at least what I experienced was, I realized that my goal, even though I taught and performed and traveled and led teams, I came to the conclusion that my greatest desire within the context of partner dancing was to be the best follow on the floor, was to be the kind of follow that any leader, beginner or advanced, could ask to dance. We would go out on the floor and we would have so much fun And I would follow what he was suggesting or asking or inviting me to do. And we would walk off the floor and high five and hug and just know that it wasn't about nailing the movement. It wasn't about perfection or doing it right. It was about having an experience, finding the connection, being fully present for each other, and having fun. And so I really set out to figure out what does it take to be a great follow. I started to ask other leaders, like after they would dance with a follow, I would see on the floor and be like, wow, she looks amazing. What was that experience like? And it was surprising. Women follows that I thought were glorious, when I would ask the leads, they would be like, she's really heavy, or she's looking around the room, or she's leading herself. Um, and these questions and these answers helped inform me so that I could kind of tweak the controls and figure out what it is I needed to do to be the best follow in the room. And then how did I communicate that to my follows? How did I teach classes in a way to say, follows, your job is not to tell your leader what he should be doing or that what he's doing is wrong. Your job is to inhale and exhale. And when you inhale with a smile, it opens up your nasal passages. You're reflecting a nice image to your partner, and you're existing in your divine feminine. So
Mm,
that's how I would answer your question.
mm,
And you're right. This is very different than my day job. I have always been heavily engaged with finance and dance, dance and finance. These two themes have been prevalent in my life since I was a little girl. And the world of finance is extremely masculine driven. It operates in a patriarchal structure in society. And embracing your feminine and your sacredness and being a great follow and being a masterful follow that you can surrender is a completely different hemisphere of the brain and of the body.
As you're talking, I literally see how you've been in the balance of the masculine and the feminine your entire life,
Yes.
right? Your entire existence has been in that space. What is it that turns you on about finance? Like, I gotta know this. What do I get? Talk to me
I,
about the finance. What turns
I
you on there?
I had a very innate, I'm a Taurus. Taurus are financially grounded. I had from a very young age an innate draw towards money, not like I want a lot of it and I want to dominate it and it wasn't that. I was just very curious about it. It was the same curiosity I had about sex is what I had about money. Like,
Well, we're going into that one next.
what is money? How does it work? How do I interact with it? This was just very native to me as a young girl. I was voted my class treasurer. I didn't care about being president, vice president. I wanted to be, as soon as I realized a treasurer was in charge of the money, I was like, yeah, I want that role. Studied finance at UCF and started working straight out of school, and I've continued in my field of study. What turns me on about finance, it touches everybody. Almost none of us receive any education. We don't really know what to do with it. Everything we learn about it is through the subconscious context we receive from our parents, usually. And it's this like enigma that nobody understands because it is a very confusing, convoluted, twisted structure. It's a patriarchal structure. It's not designed for women. It's not communicated in language that women understand. But my masculine default brain was just very curious by it and I enjoyed it. I was good at it in college. I was one of the few women in my class. And it's just always, I don't know what it is. It's something that to this day I could geek out and talk about finance for hours.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. Like that, just hearing you say you could geek out on it for hours, that passion, that turn on, like it just feels it's so authentic to who you are.
Mm.
And so now as you were talking about how do you what's the word I want to use? Talk to me about sex.
Mm,
Talk to me about how you've got your dance. I totally get the sensuality of the dance. Talk to me about how finance turns you on in this amazing like and
mm,
then leads you into this sexuality space. Because I feel
yeah.
like there's a connection between sex and money.
Mm. There definitely has been a connection between sex and money. As basic as women have handed over their autonomy to men in exchange for the safety of money and shelter, right? This is the current very antagonistic structure that we're living in a patriarchal society where men provide shelter, protection, money, so that women, ideally in their divine feminine, can have children, be mothers, be creators, be homemakers, be community builders. And we see how that structure has hurt men and women and children. So, sex and money, they're both very curious areas, right? They touch each of our lives. Everybody we know, sex and money touches their life. And yet again, just like money, sex, we never really get a true education. We might get an anatomy lesson somewhere in the school system, but our parents didn't talk about it and our elders didn't really talk about it. And so these are two areas, sex, health, and money are the three areas that are extremely intimate and personal to a person. And yet we received little to no education on them. And so, in my native curiosity as a small child, I became curious about what is sex and what is money. What do they mean to me? What is there is to know about them? What do I observe in the world around me? And how do I turn myself on with these two topics as I journey through life? And I would say that my life has just been a giant research into what do I enjoy about money and what do I not like about money? And that could be a whole separate podcast.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
what
yeah.
about sex and what pisses me off about sex. You're absolutely right. They're inextricably woven in our current society.
They are. And so one of the questions that I absolutely love asking is there is something that happened. There had to have been a pivotal moment, an aha that brought you into this place and space, into the pleasure coaching realm.
Mm,
And your connection to Mama Gina.
mhm.
And I that what is that? Tell me what that was, that pivotal moment, what shifted that brought you to be going through this program to become a pleasure coach. How did you get here?
Well, thank you for asking the question. I was first exposed to Mama Gina's work when I was in a feminine studies program led by Kianga Ford. She leads Love and Freedom Education. And in that program in 2020, we were asked to read the book Pussy, a Reclamation by Regina Thomas Shower, who is our Madrina, our godmother in
Literally.
the pleasure coaching certification program we began in 2024. And as soon as I read her work, just as anybody does, we are all extremely transformed. And I didn't even know anything about, I didn't know that the School of Womanly Arts existed. So I immediately started, following the social media and I signed up for a list. And just so happened I was on Instagram doing the death scroll or the doom scroll, and I saw her pop up. And she was doing the cortisone challenge, which
Hmm.
many of us joined. And that was a 3-day program. And at the end of it, throughout, she started to talk about this pleasure coaching program. And I've known for at least a year. Well, I've been doing the feminine studies since 2020. It's now 2025. So I'm on this bandwagon, like being curious, being a researcher, finding out how I can heighten my typical masculine leaning brain and tendencies to invite more femininity. And I can understand why the feminine is so important. And She offered this pleasure coaching program. I was kind of ending my time with my dance company, and I knew I'd already determined that women was where I wanted to specialize in. When I was financially advising one-on-one individuals, my specialty was advising breadwinning women on how to be financially successful. That was my thing. That was what turned me on about finance is educating women about money, about finances. How do we make money grow? How do we make it grow in your life? And so I knew coming from the dance company that I wanted to stay with women. And we had this opportunity. She opened up this pleasure coaching certification where I could master some of the skills that I read in that book, and I could learn how to lead women to these same incredible secrets and truths about how do we woman, how do we be feminine, how do we surrender, how do we follow. All of these things that I had been studying and doing with dance and doing with finance, I was able to kind of bring it all together and become certified as a pleasure coach so I could help women do all of the same thing.
So, oh, this is so beautiful. Like, I just continue to see your life is this balance, which is
Mm,
so rare, which is so
mm,
beautiful. Like
mm,
this balance of the divine masculine and the divine feminine.
mhm,
And knowing that you're able to help bring that balance, that energy into the woman. And so how are you going to, or how are you blending the finance and the pleasure? Like, what's that
mhm.
specialty look like?
That's a great question. How do we blend pleasure and finance?
Yeah, how are you doing this?
Well, I'm not currently blending the two, although I confess, I have considered that within the container of the Sister Goddess circles, I will be creating locally in Central Florida and virtually, that part of that would be a finance or a money magic portion. Um, I know there's a need. I know the what's out there, most of it doesn't speak in terms that women can digest and understand and receive. So to answer your question, I think the interface of pleasure and finance in the container of woman is to just help women understand these things, educate them, encourage them, celebrate them, and witness them as they make their own money grow.
Girl, I just have to say this is so beautiful. I one of the things that I can see things really clearly when people explain and they start putting things together, and I literally see you creating something that has maybe never been done before or done by very, very few women,
Mm,
to bring the pleasure and the finance together, marrying the two
mm,
to literally be full embodiment into the woman. And like I'm of course I'm just going to be excited to witness the unfolding of this as
mhm.
this is downloaded, continues to be downloaded to you by the goddess, and how it's meant to be made manifest and come through for you.
Mm,
And for all of those that you were meant to touch, because I can tell you right now, girl, I know for a fact that that is going to be an area that women are going to flock to.
mm,
It makes sense to me. Like as a woman, it's like I was never taught those things. Money scarcity was a thing in my family growing up. Just saying it makes me want to vomit, you know? And it's like being able to like serious, like, oh, I gotta like get that energy out of there. But now in this space of like empowerment and pleasure and being in these outrageous ways, we can't help but be attracting the abundance to us. How do we manage that abundance?
mm.
Right? How do we literally make it work for us?
Right.
and with us. And that's a skill set that you're bringing and you have brought and will continue to bring and up level and expand and grow in ways that we as women will get. We'll get it here in our heads, we'll get it in our heart, we'll get it in our pussies. We're going to
Yeah.
get it, you know? Oh, I love this. So as we wrap up, is there anything that you just feel like you want to share? Any last messages? Anything that's just coming through that you want to share at this time that feels authentic for you?
Yes. I'll say that every woman should be a millionaire, and every woman should be a millionaire so that she can bless the lives of everyone around her. And as we stand witness to an enormous transfer of wealth to women over the next 10 to 20 years,
Mm.
it is your birthright, feminine birthright, divine sacred birthright to come into that money, to be worthy of that money so that you can bless yourself, heal yourself, and you can bless and heal everyone around you.
Like I just let's do your practice. Let's breathe that in and let that go. That is truth. That is truth. Sister Goddess Tate Lydia, what a treasure. Literally, you are so many ways. Like I have learned from you before we even had this time, witnessing you in the program and witnessing you as you continue to show up in this gorgeous way of turn on and sensuality and strength and surrender, and yet being able to lead at the same time is just, it's beautiful. I am so grateful for you. Thank you.
Grateful for you too, Sister Goddess. Thank you so much for your time today.
So wonderful. Thank you all for tuning in today to the What Turns You On broadcast, or podcast, I should say, with Sister Goddess Tate Lydia. And if anything, learn from her wisdom that everything is about balance, and that when we stand in our divine feminine, we are in our truth, and
Mm.
we are meant to be millionaires.
Yes.
Yes, Queen. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Sister.